This is Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network, and I am your host, Mark. And today's guest hates traffic as much as I do. Plus, he helped invent an entire genre of music. Welcome David J. Haskins to the podcast. He has a new album out, but you may also recognize him from his previous bands, Bauhaus and Love and Rockets. His love of music began with reggae and sneaking into clubs when he was a kid. His biggest inspirations were David Bowie, Marc Bolan, and Roxy music. He started off playing guitar, but switched to bass when music started getting serious. David talks about early bands and getting banned from venues. He also reveals when and how he switched to fretless bass. And it's a pretty funny story. He also talks about writing Bauhaus's most well-known song, Bela Lugosi's Daid. Once Bauhaus ended, Love and Rockets began. David discusses that transition and where the band broke first. David has had an impressive solo career, and he has a new album, The Mother Tree. It's a unique album both in its concept and its execution, and David explains how that is. The album is beautiful and touching. It also has a companion book of poetry. So go to davidjhaskins.com to grab both, or check out his Bandcamp. And while you're on his website, check out his social links. And follow us at PerformanceANX on socials. Pick up merch at performanceanx.threadless.com, or just send us money at ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety. And I hope you enjoyed David J. Haskins on Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Hello, this is David J. Love and Rockets and Bauhaus, etc., etc. And you are suffering from performance anxiety, as am I, but a good thing. Hello there.
How are you doing?
Oh, fine, I made it.
Excellent. How's the traffic was rough then?
Nightmare.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know the feeling. I'm a little outside of DC, and the closer I get to it, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you for joining me. This is fantastic.
Sure.
I like to start off by finding out how you first started in music, like way back, because I mean you're known as a bass player for some legendary bands, but at one point you were a kid. So was there a lot of music in the house? What really struck your interest in music? I mean, did you have any? I know your brother was in Bauhaus and Love and Rockets, but what about parents, grandparents, any other professional musicians in the family?
No, although my great aunt was apparently a concert pianist, but that's going way back. But not my immediate. My parents weren't musicians. Although my mum really had a natural ear, and she could pick out any tune by ear on the piano.
Oh, wow.
But we never had a piano, but my nan had a piano, and she would play on that. And I would always gravitate to that piano when I visited my nan, who was up in Birmingham, up north, well, not Midlands, but north of us, in Northampton. And I just run in there and sit down, blinky plonk on the piano, And my mum would sometimes join in, and there'd be a song on the radio, and she fascinated me because she could listen and she'd just start playing it.
Wow.
I could do that to a degree, but nowhere near as good as she could. But funnily enough, they never got a piano, and they never picked up on the fact that there's this kid who loves playing the piano. Oh, should we get a piano? No. But aside from that, music in the house, there wasn't that much music. There were a few albums, and it's sort of pretty much typical fare as you would expect from parents of that age. They were in their 20s in the World War II.
Yeah.
They were of that generation, so they were young then. So when I came on the scene, they were in their 30s, 40s. My dad liked the crooners, Frank Sinatra, of course, who I love, Tony Bennett, and he liked a little bit of jazz, like Louis Armstrong, Django Reinhardt, Stephen Capelli, the Hot Club. So I remember that record. I really liked that. He also was into things like bread. He had bread on an 8-track, you know.
Really?
I love that. But I used to I remember getting very frustrated with the fact that, and I couldn't work this out, why it was that a song would not play to the end. If it was long and it was on the, you know, it would like fade out and then it would fade back up, you know.
Yeah.
On the other track. Oh, it's so frustrating. But the sound quality of those things was very good in the car.
Yeah.
And my mum had similar taste. Her favourite singer was Ella Fitzgerald.
Oh, yeah.
I refer to that in the Mother Tree, in the long piece on the album.
Yes, which is absolutely beautiful. And I can't wait to ask you some questions about that. But, you know, I want to learn more about how we got to that point. So
yeah, but anyway, obviously that music, I wasn't, you know, head over heels in love with that music. I first fell in love with reggae. That was the first music like genre that I loved. And it was all around in that this is like late 60s, like 1970. Particularly 1970, when I was like 13, I really, my ear really picked up, and I heard the reggae on the radio, commercial reggae.
Okay.
And I loved it. Like there was a label called Trojan, and the first single I bought was, funny enough, the same single that Daniel Ash bought. Oh, we found out Dave and Ansel Collins, Double Barrel.
Oh wow! Okay. Oh my
reggae. God. Yeah. So he was into that as well. And then like a year later, when I was 14, I would sneak into this skinhead disco with my mates. We were underage, you know, very underage. Yeah. 14, 15, we'd sneak into this. It was actually a youth club before it became a disco at night. And we'd go to the youth club and when it's like chucking out time for the kids, we'd hide behind a curtain on the stage. Change into our crombies and our stay pressed trousers and our two-tone tonic gear, and then sneak out once the club was going in. It's all dark,
right?
Mixing in with the crowd, you know. And the skinheads would be rather amused by these young tykes, and they'd take great delight in trying to get us drunk on beer. They'd buy us pints of beer. Oh my gosh. And I'd push us into the dance floor. But the music was fantastic. And that was music that was it wasn't the commercial music. Occasionally they would play that. But a lot of it was directly from Jamaica. And you could only hear it in a club like that. And they had these records that would just sounded amazing. And to hear that music loud in the dark, in dangerous company, was a heady experience.
Oh yeah, yeah, you know? Especially at that age. Yeah, you know, you're talking about how your love of piano early on, but what was the first instrument you played? Was it bass?
Guitar. It was a 6-string guitar, an acoustic guitar, a cheap acoustic guitar, and then I got a cheap electric guitar. Very cheap. And then, you know, I had some mates at school and from other schools. This is like age 16. Very inspired by Bowie and Marc Bolan. I was in the Marc Bolan T-Rex fan club, the only fan club I ever joined.
Oh, awesome.
And Roxy music. Those were the big three. But also, you know, we remembered the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and the Kinks. Music was happening when we were really young in the 60s. So there was all that. And there were these sort of shambolic attempts at forming bands. And it would usually be the case that there were like 7 kids and every one of them wanted to be the lead guitar player.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And then one of these get-togethers around somebody's house in the bedroom. You know, we're trying to like sort out who's going to do what seriously. Seriously,
yeah.
And it's like, I want to play guitar. I want to be the lead guitarist. Who's going to play bass then? It's like silence. And I volunteered. I said, I'll play bass. I love bass. Because I remember, the bass was the thing on the reggae records that I loved.
Yeah.
I thought, I'll play bass. And they said, well, you don't have a bass guitar. I said, well, that's all right. I'll just take those two top strings off, this one. I'll turn all the treble down, all the bass up, and then that'll be kind of a bass.
Nice.
First bass guitar.
That's awesome. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
But then, like a year later, I did get a bass. I got a Fender Precision bass. And then it was only a couple of years after that I gravitated to a fretless bass.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's fast.
Yeah.
Seems fast anyway. I mean, I'm not much of a musician. I'm definitely not a professional musician. But that seems like a pretty quick transition. I know it's...
But the only reason I picked up the fretless bass is because I like the look of it. I saw this bass on the wall in the local guitar store, and I thought it looked sexy.
Right. No frets, man. It's nice and smooth.
Yeah, I was 19 then, and but the guy in the store did his best to put me off, and he said, no, kid, that's a whole other beast. Forget about that. You don't want that. You keep, you should stick with a fretted bass, because then you know what notes you're playing. You don't know what you're playing with that. That's for, like, these jazz cats. One of them. I said, I might be. He said, no, you don't play that. I said, yeah, I'd like to try it. No, you don't. I said, yeah, I would.
Wow. Talking himself out of a sale. Jeez.
Yeah. And I was actually there with the lady who I later ended up marrying, who was quite a bit older than me. And she was saying, yeah, come on, he wants to play that. And then... get it down for him. I said, yeah. And I was like, I can deal with this myself. Yeah. And so then the guy in the shop, it's really funny, he was referring to her as my mum. He said, well, if your mum's finished,
Oh.
Yeah, look, can I just can I have a go on that? Down. And I instantly, just felt it, in my arms, and I thought, oh, yeah, this just feels natural. I can't really explain it, but I just it just felt right, and I never strayed from that fretless,
That's insane. Oh,
and I love just the smoothness of it and the slinkiness of it.
How soon after you guys end up, I guess, having your serious conversation about who's going to play what and getting the fretless, when did you start writing original music?
Oh, really early on. I mean, as soon as I got, when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
That cheap acoustic guitar, I'd only been playing for 2 weeks and I wrote a song.
Oh, my God. So
I played with my mum. It was, weirdly enough, it was a love song for Betty Davis.
Oh, wow.
Crush on. The time, just the old black and white movies, Betty, not Betty Davis as she was then, but Betty. And I thought she was very lovely. I can't remember this song at all. I remember it had a ascending. It's quite sophisticated, really. When you think it was made, I'd only been playing a couple of weeks, and I only knew chords, but I played them in different positions. I worked out that you could do that, like a jazz thing, so you can go up the neck.
Yeah.
And then it descended. So it was an ascension and then descended.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I wish I could remember that song, or if I had a recording of it.
That would be amazing. Well, maybe it'll come back to you. It'll be on the next album.
But ambitious for a learner.
Right? So is this the bands that you were in, was Kevin in the bands with you at this time? Or have you guys always basically been in bands together?
He started to learn to play the drums, and he was naturally great. So yes, he was always the drummer. So
is this jam or jack plug in the sockets, that kind of?
A bit later, yeah, but it all came from these times.
Okay.
It was that was an organized band, We had guitar players and a very good singer, Roger Rideout. And Roger He was this kid in the school. He'd been playing electric guitar for a while, a couple of years, and he was really good. His uncle was in a band, like a successful pub band. He, had some tips from him. So we were all kind of in awe of Roger. There's always that kid,
Oh, yeah.
He was a good-looking boy as well. So he was natural to be on the stage.
When I guess how is more the question. Did Bauhaus form? Because I know it's you and your brother, Daniel Ash and Peter Murphy. And what was the order of things? How did the whole group come together?
Well, there'd been bands prior to Bauhaus that I was in, and Daniel was in, and Kevin, and other kids.
Okay.
And they didn't last very long. And in all those cases, I was always kind of the leader. And you see, Daniel wanted to be the boss of his own band, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
So we'd split up, and he had this idea of contacting his old schoolmate, Peter Murphy, who he had no idea that Peter could sing. He just thought he looked great. And that's why he wanted him to be a band.
Oh, wow.
And so he contacted him, and they met up, and that clicked. And Peter actually could really sing. And then they asked Kevin to be the drummer, and then they got in this other guy playing bass. And they purposely didn't ask me. Daniel purposely didn't ask me for the reasons I just stated. I was busy anyway with this. I was about to go to Germany to play American air bases. And live in Germany.
Oh, wow.
Very good covers band. And they covered, the repertoire was funk and disco. This was 1970, this would be 78.
Okay.
So I'd learned like about 50 or 60 of these funk and disco tracks, and got them down. And it was like really close to our imminent departure. We're going to Hamburg. And it was like the week before I was set to go. And Daniel knocked on my door and asked me if I'd join the band, because he said they kicked the bass player out.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, I had seen them. Daniel invited me down to check them out because he wanted my opinion of the singer. Because he wasn't sure. He thought he looked great and he performed great, but he wasn't sure. And I saw him and I was just blown away. I was really like gobsmacked.
Wow.
I said to Daniel, he's solid gold. He's a star. What?
Yeah. So I assume that's why you joined them instead of the more of a sure thing gig playing in Germany.
Oh, yeah. When I went down to check them out, I really wanted to be part of it. And I didn't say anything. I purposely played it cool because I knew Daniel wouldn't want me to say I wanted to be part of it. But I was really hoping and praying that he would come around and ask me, and he did.
Oh, that's awesome. So when you guys, I guess when you first started, what was the scene like in Northampton? I mean, was there a music scene for younger bands to play in?
Yeah, there was. And there were some pretty good bands. There was a band called Left Hand Drive who were very good. They were kind of like the top band in town. And they came out of the pub rock scene.
Okay.
And then what followed that, of course, was punk rock. And my brother and I had a punk band in 76 after going down to see the Clash and the Sex Pistols in London. That night we formed a punk band. And then we had a guitar player was my best friend from school, Dave Exton, known as X. And then we had this crazy Latvian, Glaswegian maniac called Yanis Zakas singing. He only played 3 gigs and they literally pulled the plugs on the last one.
Oh, my God.
And from the venue. And yeah, it was quite an explosive performance, especially from just insane. But then we were thinking about like regrouping, and Daniel was going to join this new version of the punk band.
Okay.
Second guitarist. But then Yanis decided to go off and be a traveling vagabond across Europe. So he just took off. So there were suddenly we have no singer, but we got 2 guitarists, and there's me, and I'd sing a bit, and Daniel can sing, and the other guy can sing a bit. So we formed another band, a new band out of that called The Craze, and that was like post-punk. It was more poppy, and so that was the last thing. And then there was Jack Plug in the Sockets. It was basically the same band with a different name.
Okay.
But there might have been some satellite musicians coming in and out of that one. Anyway, that didn't last long either. And then that's brought you up to date now. So then I was approached by the band leader of this band to go to Germany, and I decided to do that. And then Daniel called up Peter Murphy.
And the rest is history. But I still have a few more questions about that, because the band is a pioneer in goth music. But was that the intent? I mean, were you going after that sound and the look? What was going on?
That exists. We weren't going after any particular sound, but we wanted to be original, and we wanted to make some music that we liked ourselves, and that was inspired by some of our heroes like Velvet Underground, Iggy and the Stooges, and the T-Rex and the Bowie and all that.
Yeah, because your version of Telegram Sam is killer.
Telegram Sam, you're my main man. No, Slim. I know where you've been. His lips are like lightning goes melting in the heat. Telegram Sam, you're my main man.
Yeah, and a very different take on it.
Yeah.
But also mix there, and I said about me having to work out all these disco and funk tracks. That's in there,
Yeah, I can hear it in specifically the disco in some of the bass in the.
Yes, but it's disco recontextualized, of course, in post-punk avant-garde weirdness.
Yeah, I mean. So, songs like my personal favorite Bauhaus song, Double Dare, especially the BBC version, where there's these blasts of feedback, but there's that disco kind of bass.
Right, yeah.
And I'm just like, this is amazing.
I dare you to be real. To touch a flickering flame. The pangs.
There's quite a few,
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how I wanted to go here, because I know everybody who's somewhat familiar with Bauhaus is very familiar with Bela Lugosi's Daid. My personal favorite is Double Dare. But if somebody's brand new, what's your favorite track, or what would you suggest somebody check out first if they're listening to Bauhaus for the first time?
Bela Lugosi's Daid.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
White on white, translucent black capes, back on the rack. Bela Lugosu is dead, the bats have left the bell tower, the victims have been bled, red velvet lines, the black box. Bela Lugosu is dead.
Inspired by our love of dub music. Going back to the thing again.
Right. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. And did you guys tour a lot? Or were you playing all over, or was it more closer to home?
Oh, we played all over the country, all over the UK, and we Europe pretty early on. We just, organized our own tours. We didn't have an agent, and we didn't even these tours were just so shambolic. We'd had nowhere to stay.
Oh wow!
And if we couldn't find somewhere to stay, we'd sleep in the van. We had these old mattresses on top of the gear, and we'd sleep on top of that. And usually somebody at the gig, usually the organisers in Europe, they'd offer to put us up, and we'd kind of back on that, or so we'd meet somebody in the crowd and put us up, for the night.
Wow!
So it was on an absolute shoestring.
That's incredible.
Especially in Germany, the hospitality of the people in Germany was overwhelming. They welcomed us into their homes.
Well, I mean, they're the originators of the Bauhaus movement, so they better be fans of you guys.
We were popular in Germany right from the start.
What was the writing like for Bauhaus? Was it a group effort, or was it one person bringing something in and saying, here's the song, or a mixture of everything?
No rules with it. And usually we just all get together and just start playing and just, making an unholy racket. And then the best ideas would just sort of surface. Something would come from that.
Yeah.
And we'd all recognize that. Could be a guitar thing, could be bass thing, whatever, and say, oh, what's that you played, Daniel? Just go back and play this 3-note thing. We'd stop and say, oh, what? Yeah, this, Dan, and whatever. Yeah, do that. So we'd do that, and then we'd lock into that, and then somebody else come up with an idea. Meanwhile, Peter's writing lyrics in the corner, and it's just very spontaneous. I would write some of the lyrics away from those sessions, I wrote the words to Bela Lugosi on my bicycle riding home from my job in a warehouse.
Oh my gosh!
And I wrote it on the packet, the slips we put on the packages. We had these slips, the address tags, and they're all different colours, like green, yellow, red. I don't have those original things, but I do. Idea Bela Lugosi's dead, white on white, translucent, black capes back on the rack. I kept stopping every now and again, writing it down.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I just transcribed it onto a piece of paper, threw all those cards away, and then I think we went in to do one of those rehearsals. I said, I've got some words here, and gave it to Peter. We had no music prepared or anything. We just started playing that, making that noise.
Wow!
And somehow came Bela Lugosi's Dead, and then Peter started singing that pretty much like it is on the record. The first time he ever sang it, that's what he sang.
Wow! So that was just purely organic then.
Yeah, and it was a very shivery, magical moment. We knew something, it's making me shiver now. I'm thinking of it. We knew something really great was happening. Kind of shocked ourselves, which is you want to do,
Oh, yeah. And it sounds like nothing else from that time. Bauhaus in general sounds like nothing else from that time.
No.
So the band lasted 5 years, and I mean, the music is just volatile and just heavy and dark. Did that have an effect on the band? Is that one of the reasons why it only lasted 5 years, or was there other stuff behind it?
Other stuff.
Okay.
It wasn't the music. I mean, that was great, but just personality clashes.
That's how Love and Rockets formed with the 3 core members then.
Yeah, there you go.
I get it. Okay. So Love and Rockets has a much different sound. It's still got some of that goth, but it's more, I would say, pop influenced. Is that fair?
Yeah, sure. And psychedelic.
Yeah, for sure. Was it a conscious decision to move into a lighter territory musically after Bauhaus?
No, we didn't talk about it. We just got together again, just started playing, you know. We did decide to do a cover as something to focus on because we didn't have any original material. And that's when we alighted on All the Confusion. That was my brother's idea. And that idea came about driving over to our very first rehearsal session in the countryside. We were rehearsing in this old barn, middle of a field. And we were just having a conversation about what can we do as a cover. And we were all throwing out ideas. And then when Kevin said Ball of Confusion, he said, I remember him saying, I've got an idea, but in typical selfie-facing Kevin fashion, he said, it might not be very good. I'm not sure about it. Might not be a good idea. And so me and Danny were like, what is it, Kevin? I don't know. I don't know if it's good. What is it? And he says, The Temptations, Ball of Confusion. And there was silence in the car. And then we're like, that's great. You know, oh, yeah, that's good. Oh, that's good. We could do something with that. Like, make it our own, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Segregation, termination, demonstration, integration, aggravation, humiliation, devastation, opposition, ball of confusion. That's what the world is today. Hey, hey. Ball of confusion. That's what the world is today. Hey, hey. Singing off pills at an all-time high. Who put the feeling in pie in the sky? The city's aflame in the summertime.
So when Love and Rockets came out and started playing, you know, what was the reception from Bauhaus fans? I mean, did they like the band initially, or was there some pushback because it's basically Bauhaus without Peter Murphy, but sounds a little different?
To a degree, that you always get that.
Okay.
So no, on the whole, you know, it was well received. But I really, right from the start, we started playing in America and Canada because those were the places that picked up on it. And we had, when we recorded Ball of Confusion, and we made a video for it. And that was, you know, when videos were very crucial, MTV, you know, 120 minutes and all that. And in tandem with college radio, those were the two big things that helped groups to make it in America. And they picked up on it in Canada first. And we actually got a gold record in Canada for that single.
Oh, wow.
And it was played on MTV, and we got invited over to do some dates in New York and some unholy hour in the morning. Anyway, I think we played our first gig was like 3 a.m. or something at this music convention. But it just clicked in America. And so we got offers for gigs and tours, and we never looked back, really. And every time we went over to the States, it got bigger.
Yeah, I remember being in college, and around the time, let's see which album came out when I was in college. It was the self-titled one came out at the end of my high school year, Love and Rockets, the self-titled one, and then Hot Trip to Heaven is at the end of my college time. And I remember seeing those albums everywhere. That's later on. Yeah.
I started, there were 3 albums before that. The album Express was very big on college radio. That's the second album.
So, I mean, do you think it was because the sound was a little bit lighter than Bauhaus? It made had a
lighter. It's more rock and roll.
It was embraced a little more readily, I think, than Bauhaus.
Yeah. And it was influenced by American music.
And it's easier, or maybe easier, like you said, to play on MTV and the radio stations. So the band lasted till 99. Was it like a mutual decision to just call it a day in 99? Or was it, somebody just decided to leave? How did the band wrap everything up?
Well, we were with a label that it went bust.
Oh.
Doesn't help.
No.
And we loved that record Lift, which is our last album. We put a lot of work into that. That was kind of lost, and just it was so disappointing that it kind of took the wind out of our sails, So we decided to knock it on the head and do other things. And
with the legacy like Bauhaus and Love and Rockets, you could have rested on your laurels, but you've been incredibly busy in the 25 years since the band has disbanded. A couple reunions here and there for both bands, but you've done so much solo work.
Yeah. Which
brings us to the new release, because this album and book that you're putting out is fascinating. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. I guess basically it's your poetry set to music. Is that?
Yeah.
When did you start writing the poetry? Because I was reading some of the information about it, and it says early to mid 90s. I mean, was that when you were starting to write the poetry, or were that when the things that influenced the poems happened?
No, it goes back. The poetry goes back to, I think, the earliest poems in there from 1978.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man.
And it spans all those decades. I don't write that much poetry. Occasionally one will come along, and I just kept those, they're just in a little folder. And I've always done odd spoken word tracks, right from the first solo record, Etiquette of Violence, which was 1983. There's a spoken word piece on that.
Sad lost time of all rainy afternoons in Paris. Go! This week's waitress pulls out her camel, striking a match on the dash, having just come with a prayer and a curse in the back of a stolen car. Amphetamine wearing out a howling switchblade. Rucksack ancestral creasing the long split track.
And on most of the albums that follow, there's a spoken word piece, but there's not an album where it's all spoken word. And I wanted to do that. I thought, that would be good to do that. And I wasn't sure whether to do the music myself and multi-track it or bring in other musicians. But then by chance, I went out to see a friend of mine perform in a little place downtown LA, Nora Keys. And she was in a band called Centimeters, who I produced. And I just bumped into her like the night before, and I said, "Oh, what are you doing now, Nori?" And she said, "Oh, I've got a new duo that we're playing tomorrow night. Come down and see it." So I did. And they were very good. And they were on in the middle of 3 bands. And the third band was setting up, and I still had half a drink. And I thought, I'll sit this and see what this is like. Just maybe stay for one song. And as soon as they started playing, I was really riveted by them, and they were great. And they were just playing all entirely instrumental music. And they were brilliant, and they were improvising, I could tell. And they were really listening to each other and responding to each other. And after about 10 minutes, it just struck me, this group could really work with what I've got in my mind, like this spoken word, maybe even some songs as well. was thinking like along the lines of Van Morrison, like Astral Weeks, which is semi-poetry anyway. So I approached them after this. I stayed for the set, and I approached them afterwards, and we were in the studio within a couple of days.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. That's so the band, is it, how do you
Rekia.
Rekia, okay.
They're not together anymore.
Oh no.
Yeah. But I still play with John Bernstein, the keyboard player, and I still play with Greg, who is a brilliant string arranger. He plays violin on my album, but he also plays cello and he plays viola, and he's a great arranger. And he's actually been doing a lot of strings on my new album, solo album, which is a double album.
How did the sessions go with this? I mean, I know you said you guys were pretty quick in the studio. Did they read the poetry? Did you give them ideas of what you wanted musically? How did it work?
I sent them a bunch of poems, and I really gave them carte blanche to come up with the music themselves. I said, interpret this in any way you wish. And I didn't want to hear it until we were in the studio. I had that much trust in them.
Wow.
Because I play and I knew what they were capable of. And also I thought it'd be exciting for that to be the case, the MO. So we just turn up. And then I got them to play me just a little snatch of what they'd come up with. And then it was just right. I said, that's right. That's the right thing. Let's go and record it. And it was first take that we did, and I did the vocal live with them.
Wow.
So we were each other and really listening, and you really get a sense of that. And for the whole album, that was the MO for the whole album. And I gave them very little direction. I think there was a couple of pieces where I said, slow this one down. I think that's all I said, slow it down a bit. So they got it.
It's a sublime album. The Mother Tree, the title track, I've listened to it so many times. It breaks my heart every time I listen to it, and it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful tribute to your mother. I mean, it's so personal.
The last time that we spoke was on the phone. The 14-hour time difference had expanded to infinity, and you had to find your glasses before you could talk. I told you that I was exactly the same, and we had a good laugh about that. I miss your laugh. I was the firstborn, disaffected, stood in shadow, dazzled and begrudging as you shone the sibling coin. Jealousy, envoy to the danger.
Was it difficult to record that?
It would have been difficult if I had to do another take, I think. Because it's very emotional and in my voice, I know. But I was in the zone. I was in the right zone to deliver it. And it wasn't really difficult. I wouldn't say it was difficult. It was emotional. And it was deep, and it was cathartic.
It comes through on the album. It's one of the most touching pieces of music I've heard in, I can't even tell you how long. It's just, it really hits me right. When I'm listening to it, I'm thinking about my mom and my wife and our kids. And it's just,
yes.
Like you're getting chills. I'm getting chills right now. I'm like tearing up thinking about it. It's just,
I have heard this a lot, so it's really gratifying,
It's incredible. And, it's funny because it's a long song. It's over 20 minutes long. But when I'm listening to it, it does not seem like that at all. It just,
right. I'm
sucked into it, and I'm just, next thing I know, it's done. And it, it seemed, it goes by almost like a 4 or 5 minute song.
Yeah. That
is my favorite track on the album. But I got to tell you, I also love Incantation to Hearn. That is like shamanistic. There is an intensity in that song that is unbelievable.
Sequestered in the still of aromatic autumn, the brackish earth that holds the lily's sleep earth beats. The earth beats.
Yeah, you got that right. And when I recorded that, it was funny because that was when we took a break from the first session, and then COVID happened, so we couldn't go back for quite a while, a few months. Then we finally organised it, and then when we did go back, we were isolated, and I recorded my vocals in this little tiny back room with a mic stuck in it, and I went in there to do that incantation to Hearn, and somebody had mysteriously left an antler on the table in there. Nobody was quite sure how that got there, but so apropos. So I picked that thing up, and I was holding that and kind of using it as a divining rod and a wand and a source of inspiration, shamanically, if you like, for that piece. Yeah, and it's very powerful. And again, they're all one take.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, and we had a percussionist for the other tracks as well, and he does a great job, Brad.
The guitar in all of these songs is just, like you're saying, you can tell that it's kind of improvisational, but everything, it just matches the words that you put together so perfectly. It's Yeah. Well, these guys, they're graduates. The guys are graduates of the Berkeley Music School. Every song there's 5 songs. Every song just pulls you in. Every song is its own story, and like Savior in the City.
When confronted by a beggar, he gave no alms, but placed his hand tenderly on the back of the wretch's head, an act which stunned, silenced, and becalmed the $1 million touch and more.
And it's wonderful because I listen to a lot of the music while I'm at work. And so I'm, doing my job, but I've got, I work for a spinal implant company. So I deal with a lot of broken things that come back in and extra stuff that sales reps have. And I got to figure out where it comes from and where it's got to go, like trash or back into stock. So it can be tedious. And so music albums like this really help, because it's not just your typical 3 chords and a cloud of dust kind of thing. It keeps my mind active, and I really helps me on the job. And songs like Savior in the City, it's telling a story, and the music matches perfectly with it. It's really an incredible album. It's a unique album for sure. It's one of the most unique things I've heard this year for sure, and probably in several years. And it's a companion piece to the book of poetry that comes with it, Rhapsody, Threnody, and Prayer. How did you pick the songs that were going to be accompanied by music as opposed to ones that were going to be in the book?
Well, the book came after the album, so I wasn't thinking about the book.
Oh, okay. Well,
initially,
okay.
Suggested to me by Chandra, who runs the label, who always has a publishing house, to do a book. And I chose the ones that are on the album. I don't know. I just went through this cache of poems, and it was just very spontaneous. I made a very kind of intuitive decision. No, that one, I just went through them, and it's almost like they asked.
I mean, that makes sense, though. Are you planning on doing any of this stuff out live, out on the road at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, I won't be touring with that group. God, I would love to do that, but they're not together anymore, and it'd be expensive anyway. Yeah. But what I'm doing is I'm putting together a tour at the moment, and we keep adding to it. I keep getting approached now by promoters all over the place, so it's really nice, So it'll be at the first third will be spoken word with some pre-recorded music. One of the tracks from Eulogy for Beale Street from the album I'll be doing live for sure. Oh. Pick up an acoustic guitar and play songs from right across the board. Occasionally I'll have other musicians join me as well, mainly on the song section. Yeah, I'm playing some interesting venues as well. I just got one in it's like a silo. So it's this long, tubular building in San Diego where they have these avant-garde music events and they do something. So that one I'm going to do something different. I'm going to bring in a cellist who uses a lot of different pedals, Joyce Rocks. I played with her many years ago, and she's great at that. I want to use the sonic properties of this building. So that'll be a different performance again. I might have a percussionist as well. Yeah. So each show will be quite unique.
It sounds like it, especially if you're choosing unique venues. I mean, there's a really cool place in DC. If you're planning on coming to the East Coast, there's a place called Six and I, which is a synagogue that's been transformed into a performance space.
All right.
It's really, I've seen one show there. I do a lot of concert photography in the area. So I shot one show there and it sounded fantastic.
It's funny. I was approached by a promoter in DC today who said he had a unique venue that he'd like me to play in. I won't be able to do it because I have to get back to the West Coast. But I didn't get into the details with him, but maybe it's the same place.
It's possible. There are several, I'm going to use the term unique, places to play in DC. A lot of old buildings that get transformed into performance spaces that are very different.
Yeah.
Is everything coming as a package, the album and the book, or are they separate?
They're separate.
And what's the best way for people to find them?
Through my website's probably the best. And Bandcamp, my Bandcamp, you can find them quite easily online. And also the record label itself, which is Erototox. Is
there a social media presence that people can follow to find out where you're going to be performing? And like you said, you have a new album in the works, so they can keep an eye on that.
Yeah, the best ones are my Instagram, and that's easily found. And there's the David J Facebook. They're all, the website as well, and they're all linked.
Okay, so you can go to the website and it'll link you to the other stuff then.
I have a Patreon site as well. It's through that, if you remember that.
This has been wonderful chatting with you. I mean, it's always amazing when I get to talk to a legend. So I want to thank you for doing the podcast. Thank you for the Mother Tree. It's really hit me in a place that doesn't get hit very often. So thank you for the amazing performance. And I'm hoping I get to see, at some point, a performance somehow, somewhere, because I don't know. I think it would just be just as powerful, probably more powerful seeing it in person than it is on the album.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you make it. Yeah.